y'all. Guess what? It is time for another episode of Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka, and am coming to you with fresh energy and new hair. The blonde somehow is gone, so we'll see when the blonde decides to come back. But for many of you that know me, this is the longest my hair has been in probably almost 20 years. So it was longer before I got the haircut and the blonde went. But enough of that. Welcome to this episode of Better with Dr. Ericka, and I'm coming to you for what? Ooh, Women's History Month. And I want to talk to you about some of the women's history that is in my circle and that I see every day and that I'm reminded of every day and that inspires me. So I'm excited to share that with you. And before we get started, if you know someone that needs this, please tag them. If you know someone that needs this, please share. Sharing is caring. And the last thing, if you're watching it later, no worries. Just put hashtag replay in the comments. Just let me know you are here. All right. Deal. Let's do this. Well, again, I am so excited to have you here. I'm your host, Dr. Ericka, Harvard trained, double board certified psychiatrist and host of the hit podcast, Better with Dr. Ericka. I'm extremely passionate about helping you be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my Don't Tell a Psychiatry practice, my books, including Fix Your Fairy Tale, A Woman's Guide to a Great Life, Love, and Legacy. I guess that's right on time for Women's History Month. My speaking and the podcast I mentioned earlier. I do all of this to help busy people like you. You show up for your friends, you show up for work, you show up for your family, show up for your community, show up for everybody but yourself. So I'm here to help put you back in your life. So we're going to talk about women's history in real time. You might be like, why are we talking about this? Well, number one, the first thing is what? It's Women's History Month. The second is I'm a huge fan of keeping in mind and being constantly inspired and reminded of living history or history as it's happening and even past history, because number one, it also puts us in a space of being able to have perspective, to have gratitude, and to learn lots of lessons. And the great thing about history beyond our own history is sometimes we can learn lessons without bopping ourselves. I feel like little bunny foo hopping through the forest, scooping up all the field mice and bopping them on the head. You can learn through other things that have happened in history to help keep yourself from bopping yourself in the head and possibly learn some lessons without having the hard experiences with them. So I want to talk to you about that because you know what? As I say, I'm Black every day. Black history is happening every day. Every day is Black History Day. But, I feel the same way with women's history. And I think the important thing is we're in a space where there's so much going on that it's important for us to be able to amplify each other's voices and to also appreciate and take advantage of the fact that we are not all living the exact same human existence. And as we embrace everyone's diversity, diverse experiences, diverse outlooks, it actually makes everything better. So let's get to it. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So the first stop on the Women's History Tour is Spelman College. If you do not know, Spelman College is one of two historically Black women's colleges. The other one is Bennett College, which is in I think North Carolina. If it's not North Carolina, it's South Carolina, but I'm almost 100% sure it's North Carolina. And technically it looks like Bennett was founded first in 1871. We were founded in 1881. But Spelman College is located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's part of the Atlanta University Center, which includes Spelman College, Morehouse College, which is the only historically Black all-male college, Morris Brown College, Clark Atlanta University, the Interdenominational Theological Center, along with Morehouse School of Medicine, all make up the Atlanta University Center. And the wonderful thing about Spelman is it being a Black women's college is, I think the unique thing about the experience there is it literally is an institution that can create a safe space regardless of race and gender, which a lot of us do not have those safe spaces as we move throughout the world. And especially all of you out there that are women or you that have paid attention to women in your life, is that every place is not a safe space. So it was very unique in the fact that it could create that space. And it's one of only two historically Black colleges for women. The next person is Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler. Feel free to chat and let me know if you know who she is before I tell you. So Ta-da. So Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler is the first African American female physician in the United States. So, I think that's important to acknowledge because I'm a physician and I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people, just a ton of people. And one of the things to remember is when we're starting to look at a lot of this living history, people will feel like this is so long ago. And a lot of times, these people that were first for humongous things, some of them may even be in your generation, but even looking at this kind of stuff, these people weren't that many generations before us. She lived from 1831 to 1895. That's not really that long ago. So just the fact that these things are still relatively new, but the thing is for a lot of us that are women physicians, especially Black women physicians, I needed people like her to come along for it to be able to happen. And the interesting thing is she was a nurse before she was a physician. And a fun fact is both of my grandmothers were nurses. I was the first doctor in my family, but I came from two nurses for grandmothers. So the next person on our women's history train or journey is Dr. Jean Spurlock. Now, I had to make sure I mentioned her because there is a congressional fellowship named after her. And I was actually the second Jean Spurlock Congressional Fellow. So that's the fun fact about Dr. Ericka. Dr. Ericka went from Emory for Spelman College for undergrad, then Emory University for medicine, School of Medicine for my MD. Then I did my adult psychiatry training at Morehouse School of Medicine. And then I went to DC as a congressional fellow with the Jean Spurlock Congressional Fellowship. The really intriguing thing about Dr. Jean Spurlock is beyond the fact that she's brilliant. The next thing is she also studied in child and adult psychoanalytic training. And you may not know that there aren't as many psychoanalysts as there used to be. So that actually is some significant additional training that she did. And she really was a powerhouse when it came to advancing women, underrepresented communities, African Americans within the field of not only the field of mental health as people that practice mental health, but also as far as people having access. She played key roles, especially in organizational medicine, including in the American Psychiatric Association, where she was the deputy medical director and at one point was the director for the Office of Minority National Affairs. But one of the great things about her, she actually wrote a book, and I highly recommend this book. It's sometimes their books are like they're an oldie but a goodie. She wrote an oldie but a goodie. It's called Black Psychiatrists in American Psychiatry. It's a phenomenal book. I highly recommend it, especially if you're interested in mental health, to really be able to understand some of the history behind it. But she was just someone that was so powerful in a variety of organizations, but especially the American Psychiatric Association. The next person, we're staying with the theme of American Psychiatric Association for a moment with Dr. Altha Stewart. Now, if you do not know Dr. Altha Stewart, and feel free to put in the chat if you know who she is actually the first African American president, the first Black president of the American Psychiatric Association. So women's history, because she is a woman and she is doing the thing. She's been brilliant a very long time. She also at one point was president of Black Psychiatrists of America. But, she is a first as far as the first Black president for the American Psychiatric Association. So staying in line with women's history, I don't know how this turned into women's history psychiatry edition from Dr. Ericka. The next person I want to mention is Dr. Marquita Wills. Now, this is actually one of my contemporaries. So we went from someone that was my mentors in Dr. Jean Spurlock to one of my mentors who is Dr. Altha Stewart to a contemporary who is Dr. Marquita Wills. One of the fun fact about Dr. Marquita Wills, other than the fact that she is freaking fabulous, is she is the going to be the next medical director and CEO of the American Psychiatric Association. That is big stuff because we haven't really had that position before. So I wanted to mention her because she's also making women's history. Now, you might be like, okay, Dr. Ericka, you've named all these people. So what about me? So I have been in spaces where I've been the only. So like when I was, I guess this would be a sort of Black history fun fact, is that when I was doing my child psychiatry training at Children's Hospital Boston, I was actually the only Black physician in my entire department. But I'm a woman. But there were other women, but I was the only Black person and the only Black woman physician. There were a couple of Black female psychologists. Um, but the reason I bring this up is number one is there's all this history around us. And a lot of us stand on the shoulders of a lot of people that have gone through a lot of stuff to put us where we are. And it's important to keep in mind that. The next is when you start looking back, these are all, when we start looking at all these historic things people have done, and even if you want to go other directions, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or, like I love Mel Robbins, or other people that have just done really huge things, is that a lot of times people were born, they didn't know they were going to do these huge things. And the thing I love about having conversations and really looking into all of this history is that you get to see that people who seemingly their journey started off seeming ordinary and then they became extraordinary or did extraordinary things. And the power in that is just realizing that number one, we stand on the shoulders of a lot of people. We it ain't black, it's not Black History Month, so I won't even start going down, this country standing on the backs of slaves and indigenous peoples. But the thing is there are so many people that have done so many things to help all of us have access to what we do, is that it's important to have gratitude and to appreciate their sacrifices, but also to learn lessons from all of this history so that we can make better choices and better decisions to ultimately be better, do better, and live better. And especially as we're looking at Women's History Month, and one of the things I hear all too often as how people are exhausted. They are burned out from doing all the things. They're burned out from work. They're burned out from trying to be everything for their family. They're being caregivers to their spouses, to their children, to their parents. People are just tired. Women are tired. And the thing I think that's important to remind yourself around these kinds of things in Women's History Month is that everyone is on a journey. Everybody's journey is not the same. Even if some things didn't go right, that doesn't mean there is not potential for greatness, and there's not potential for things to be better. And I just want to encourage you to pay attention to the history around you and to acknowledge it. And if you are not identifying as a woman, to really appreciate the knowledge, experience, and perspective that women can bring to all spaces. And one of the reasons I always like to bring up people that have either a high level of personal or professional success, and we kind of leaned on some people with professional success, but if we want to talk about personal success, I can talk about my mother. My mother was a homemaker, a traditional homemaker. She's hard starched better than the cleaners, and she's done a lot of phenomenal things, but the household she ran, stellar. And she made me and she raised me. And I'd like to remind people that raising good quality humans is one heck of accomplishment, and not to always get caught up on these versions of success, which is making the most money or having what someone feels is the most prestigious job or the prestigious title. Is that there are a lot of ways to not only be successful and define success, but also to leave a meaningful life of quality and value. And I want to encourage you to also see the value in people and the value in women for this Women's History Month. Okay, that's what I got. So thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka. Again, I am your host, Dr. Ericka, Harvard trained double board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I'm on a mission to help you be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my adult telepsychiatry, my books, including Fix Your Fairy Tale, A Woman's Guide to a Great Life, Love, and Legacy, my hit podcast, Better with Dr. Ericka, and my speaking. I do all of this to help busy people like you. You show up for work, you show up for your friends, you show up for your family, show up for everybody, but you don't show up for yourself. I do this to put you back in your life. If you've been watching and you know someone that needs this, please share. If you know someone that needs this, please tag them. And the last is, if You're watching it later, don't even worry about it. Just hashtag replay. I'm just happy to know that you are here. We're gonna do a little replay and then get you out of here. How does that sound? Does that sound good? All right. Well, since we talked about a little history, this is where it all started for Dr. Ericka, 70s furniture. But this isn't all about me. So let's talk about the rest of the history other than just how I looked as an infant. The first thing we mentioned was Spelman College, the one of only 2 historically Black women's colleges, and where Stacey Abrams went to college. But yeah, so we talked about Spelman College. We talked about Dr. Jean Spurlock, who was a groundbreaking Black female psychiatrist that did phenomenal things for access for African Americans and underprivileged communities, along with making a significant amount of increased access and power for African Americans and underrepresented groups within medical organizations, including the American Psychiatric Association. The next we're mentioning is Dr. Altha Stewart, who is the first Black president of the American Psychiatric Association. I mentioned Dr. Marquita Wills, who is the next CEO and medical director of the American Psychiatric Association. We talked about Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, who is the first African American physician in the United States. And those were some of the big fun facts for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. And as usual, let me tell you about where to find me. So we have a podcast. I know I mentioned Better with Dr. Ericka. The upcoming episode is actually episode number 76. So we are in season 5. Can you believe it's season 5, y'all? And I wonderful guest is Dr. Christine Goins, and we're talking about insights on digital nomadism, burnout, and self-care. You're going to want to catch every moment of that because there were tips and nuggets that anybody can use, no matter if you're burned out, not burned out, looking for more freedom, happy with your life, looking to travel, looking not to travel. There's something in there for you. So you need to tune in. If you're not quite sure where to find us, you can find me on any podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or go to betterthepodcast.com and you can find the pod there. All right now. Now, the other thing is sometimes people are like, hey, Dr. Ericka, you're a doctor. You keep saying you are a Harvard trained double board certified psychiatrist. What if I actually want to talk to you one-on-one, like you actually be my psychiatrist? So let me tell you how you can do that. Because right here, we are just giving some education. This is not where you receive your medical care from Dr. Ericka. All you have to do is go to goodwinmed.com, goodwinmed.com. And you can find me. If you start missing me, you can always go back and look at old episodes of Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka, or you can check out the podcast. Do me a favor. If you can follow or subscribe to all of them, it would give me love, lots of love. But until next time, I want you to have a wonderful time. Please continue to celebrate Women's History Month and look for ways that you can help amplify and support and be allies to women. Next thing is take your left hand, put it in your right arm, right hand. Left arm, give yourself a squeeze, a big squeeze, because you deserve some love and I am giving it to you. Until next time, have an